Hi guys, and welcome back for another video. My name is Beanie. I'm a certified trauma-informed coach that specializes in domestic and narcissistic abuse. Today we're talking about all things no contact. So I see no contact as this kind of double-edged sword. It is one of the most powerful tools that you can use when separating yourself from an abusive person. That's one side of the sword. The second side of the sword, the other side, it is also one of the hardest, most difficult things that you are going to do. Making the decision to go no contact should not be taken lightly. If you are considering this, then likely you have endured multiple incidences or maybe even years of abuse that has led you to this point. The pain of your current situation is so great that you are considering swapping it out for a different kind of pain. This should not be taken lightly. And so I go into this video knowing that so much of what I have to say about the motives of your ex and narcissists in general is really, really difficult to hear. And so with that disclaimer, I'm going to tell you that the love that you had for them was not reciprocated. And it was not reciprocated because there was something wrong with you. It wasn't reciprocated because they are incapable of that kind of love. The love that they are capable of is only ego-driven. Its roots are only bound to the idea that they love what you can do for them. And they love how you love them, period. Their entire motive is to gain control, to gain power, to dominate, and to serve their own needs, wants, and desires, however contrived and twisted they may be. A narcissist sees you as supply and nothing more. So what does supply mean? Supply means that you are a source of validation for them. You supply them with various things: company, sex, money, sometimes status, even conflict, something to do even, and likely you are the number one source of feeding their insatiable ego. And so here you are now, watching this. Likely you have begun to recognize what has been going on. Maybe the mask has been lifted and you are beginning to see the truth about this person that likely you have treated really well. You likely have given up so much for them, and likely you've been very loyal to them. And now you are trying to distance yourself from them. You're trying to regain your power and find yourself again. So how do you do that? Well, one of your biggest weapons is to cut off all communication. When you disengage with a narcissist or go no contact, they lose that control. They lose that power and they lose that domination, and ultimately that source of supply that they so desperately need. Immediately, the tables turn and you will begin to feel that shift in power with your silence. But don't expect this to happen without some pushback. At first, you're likely going to receive more threats, more harassment, constant calls, and attempting to communicate. But after time, if you're able to stick to your guns and not respond, react, and reach out, they will begin to realize that you no longer are enough supply for them. Eventually, they're going to need to find someone else to feed their egos, to control, to fill their time, and to support them. Eventually, they will likely move along. Now, in my case, it was a little bit unique in that I could no longer handle the harassment and the stalking. I had moved 2,500 miles away, and after moving, I had gone no contact for several months, and his harassment and stalking just continued until I just couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of living with this constant threat of when he was going to attempt to communicate with me and upset my world. I'm not telling you this as a recommendation because I know that every situation is really different and things can get really dangerous. But for me, outside of no contact, exposing my abuser was the biggest and strongest move I could make. And that was ultimately what stopped him from trying to contact me. So moving forward with this video, I'm going to be talking about what it means to go no contact. I'm going to talk about how to go no contact. And then I'm going to talk about when to go no contact. At the end, I'm also going to answer some frequently asked questions that you may have. So let's dive in. So what does it mean to go no contact? No contact means just that. You have zero communication with the person that has caused you an immeasurable amount of pain. That means no texting, calling, you don't go to places they may be, you block them on social media, ignoring all communication. You may even have to sever mutual relationships with friends in an effort to make sure that you don't run into them or their names don't come up in conversation. You are no longer giving them access to you in any way. No reactions, no responses, and no reaching out. Their efforts will be spent on doing and saying anything to get you to do exactly that, to react, to respond, and to reach out. And your efforts will be spent on doing the exact opposite. It's a bit of a game of chicken. They'll be expecting you to do what you've always done, which is to react, respond, and reach out. They expect you to break. And when you don't, you will baffle them. So now you know what no contact means. Let's talk about how to go no contact. First of all, I recognize that every situation is unique, and so you have to determine whether or not it's safe for you to do this. Your first step is to block them on everything. Phone number, text, all social media, Venmo, Google Photos, email, everything. Having said that, if someone wants to get a hold of you, I know that there are always ways to do so. They have burner phones, they have Google numbers, they have *67, they have fake social media accounts. It will be up to you to ignore all of these efforts. And secondly, what no contact means is that you no longer will tolerate anyone coming to you with information about them. Draw some hard lines in the sand, some strict boundaries with the people in your life that think that you want to know about anything about this person anymore. This is a great opportunity for you to practice using those boundaries. Now, in the best of circumstances, it can be that black and white. No kids, not married, no property together, no threat of violence. If this is the case, that it can really be as simple as you never speak to them again. But don't underestimate the emotional tax of going no conflict will have on you. Having said this, it's also important to let you know that no contact is a technique that can also have a very gray area. It's not always as black and white as we wish it to be. It depends on a lot of things. Who the relationship is with, if you are in danger, how often you see them, what the family dynamic is, if children are involved. And so for couples with children, it may not be possible to cut off all communication. Deciding to go no contact with an ex when you have children is an extremely important decision. Be sure that you are not making that decision from an angry place. You don't want your children to become resentful, that they never had the opportunity to get to know their other parent. So oftentimes, the other really good alternative to no contact if you have children is to go low contact, or what's called gray rocking. Gray rocking means that you become really uninteresting as a gray rock. You give 1 or 2 word answers, you remain unengaged, you have a kind of blah sort of attitude, no offering up conversation, you don't ask about them. And again, expect for things to get worse before they get better. once you begin to do this. And again, be ready for some escalation. They may go lower than usual in their attacks against you, but let them. Remember, you are now in control. They no longer have the ability to get under your skin anymore. And if gray rocking isn't working for you and it's just too hard, then there is one more step up from that that's called yellow rocking. This is considered minimal engagement, a bit more emotion. You're less confrontational, more fluctuation in your voice, ask a few meaningless questions. This tactic may be better for you, for your children to see your interaction with their father. And you can always put an act on knowing that you are in control. You're in control of your emotions, especially around your children. So both of these methods work if you have children with an ex and you are forced to have some type of communication with them. You are still in control, you're still responding to only necessary questions, and you are doing it on your terms and in your time. So we've talked a little bit about what is no contact. Let's talk a little bit now about when should you go no contact. And just remember that your entire idea behind no contact is to provide yourself with time and space to heal. As I stated in the beginning, if you are considering this, then likely you are officially at your wit's end. Ideally, you have already created some physical distance from this person. That would be ideal. And that you are no longer dependent upon them in any way. It would be really difficult to go no contact with them if you're living in the same house. So we've talked about the what, the how, and the when to go no contact. Let's touch on a few questions that you may have that are frequently asked questions with regards to no contact. The first one is, do I let them know that I'm going no contact? And the answer to that is that you don't necessarily want to give them your playbook. So no need to let them know. If the relationship is toxic, then having that conversation about how you're going to be cutting them out of your life, it may be just a recipe for more drama. Every situation is unique. There may be times where you can just kind of fade yourself out, and that might be the better route, safer route for you to take. You can answer only necessary questions, but you're not reaching out to them at all. And the idea is that they will become less and less interested and eventually fade out completely. As I mentioned above, and it's worth reiterating, escalation by a narcissist or abuser may happen initially. They may become frustrated with your lack of communication or your lack of responses, and they may become irate. The idea of no contact is 100% easier for you if you are not in close physical proximity of this person. If you are close and you do see them regularly, the slow fade, it might be the better choice for you. And so question number 2, how do I know it's time to go no contact? So oftentimes it's a feeling of the straw that broke the camel's back. You have endured, and all of a sudden the rope snaps and you know, this is it. This is the last straw. You can't take anymore. And so only you are going to know when that is. I wish I could give you a checklist of, if this happens, then this is what you should do. But ultimately, you are the only one that can determine this. Okay, the next question is, what if I break no contact and I respond, react, or reach out? So it's incredibly common that oftentimes this takes longer than we think it should, and that it doesn't happen the way we expect it to go in the first several tries. In my personal experience, I went no contact more times than I could count. I lasted 2 days, I lasted 2 weeks, I even lasted 3 months one time. At the time, it felt like a failure to me every time I went back. Now I know that each time I went back, I was going back a little bit stronger and ready for the next time. So it is not a failure. Instead, you need to kind of look at it as a practice run or a training session. Each time you go no contact, it will bring you closer to the last time you go no contact. A couple strategies that will help with that is to journal. Journal your feelings. Pay attention to your body and how you physically feel around this person, and document all of that for yourself. And the last question here is, does no contact have to be forever? Now, this really depends on what you are able to wrap your head around with the concept of forever. If forever is just too much for you and that's what's holding you up, then you can tell yourself that you can revisit your decision when you feel like you have had enough time to heal and to make a different decision. Trust yourself and your healing process. Remember, the theory behind it all is to give you space and time to heal. Always keep in mind that your goal is to create a life that brings you joy, a life that you feel proud of, a life that you feel in abundance with. And in doing that, you must surround yourself with people that add to that life, not take away from it. So remember to give yourself grace, go into this with your eyes wide open, have a plan, and know that you are stronger than you could ever possibly imagine, that you are more powerful, you are not alone. Be free.